Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're going to keep looking at Eldritch Moon, and we're going to move on and look at Dangerous Knowledge, which is a blue and red deck. So let's take a look at the deck list. So we've got 14 creatures, 13 sorceries, 8 instants, 25 land. So I think we can probably guess what the theme and strategy of the deck is. It's blue-red spells, which is an absolute classic, and we've got a mana curve off to the side there. So let's dive in and start looking at the contents of the deck. So the foil face rare is Niblis of Frost, so 2 and double blue for a 3/3 with flying and prowess. That on its own I think is fairly solid anyway. It's nice to have prowess on a body that's already pretty chunky and has a form of evasion. But also you get an extra non-creature spell benefit here. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, tap target creature an opponent controls, and it doesn't untap during the control's next untap step. So this is really nice. So not only is every instant sorcery you play also giving this +1/+1 to make it an even bigger flying threat, but you can also tap down potential blockers or just other big threats on the board and just kind of keep them locked down for a turn. So this is a really solid start, I think, to the deck, and it really goes along well with what the deck's trying to do, which is, as I said, it's blue-red spells, which is a classic. Actually, thinking about it, it's interesting because we had, this is a bit of a tangent. We got blue-red spells here, and we had a pretty good blue-red spells deck back in Fate Reforged, but I think that's because we didn't get a blue-red spells deck in either of the core sets we've looked at this season, either M15 or Magic Origins, because both the blue-red decks in those were both kind of themed more around artifacts. So yeah, because normally we get the core set is usually where we get kind of a blue-red kind of spells deck. So yeah, interesting that we got them here in these main sets, which I think is usually better because you got usually a much better card pool to draw from. Anyway, aside from that, so the other rare in the deck is Bedlam Reveler, so 6 and double red for 3/4. It costs 1 less to cast for every instant or sorcery in your graveyard. It has prowess as well, and when it enters the battlefield, you discard your hand and draw 3 cards. So a lot going on with this guy. I think you'd want to get him down to, I think getting him down to 5 mana would actually be pretty good. I think 3/4 with prowess, and also, obviously, if you can cast him when you've got a mostly empty hand or just land or something, just to draw. If you want to, basically, if you can play it and draw just 3, that would be really fantastic, I think. So yeah, this is again really solid. Obviously, goes along with the deck wants to do. Something late game to do once you cast a bunch of instants and sorceries, and you want to refresh your hand anyway. So yeah, Bedlam Reveler I think is also pretty good rare. Two good rares in this deck. And then we've got 2 Mercurial Geists, 2 a blue and a red for a 1/3 flyer. And when you cast instant or sorcery spell, it gets +3/+0 to end turn. So basically, we Dragonauts, if you don't want the the Is It Fairies, you want to have something a bit more serious, like crazy fire ghosts. There we go. But yeah, this is the very standard, I think, blue-red spells matters creatures. One of these that gets a really significant power boost whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, and already has flying, so it's already evasive. So yeah, again, I just think really solid. Yeah, I really love creatures like this because I really like Kiln Fiend and stuff like that. So really happy. I didn't even know this creature existed actually because I'm not super familiar with Shadows over Innistrad blocks. So really happy to have seen this creature when I was doing these graphics. So yeah, really like this. Got a single Pyre Hound, so 3 and a red for a 2/3 with trample. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So nice that has trample to benefit from potentially becoming quite big, getting +1/+1 counters. Yeah, apart from that, yeah, it's just a really big, beefy attacker. We got 2 Thermo Alchemists, 1 and a red for a 0/3 defender. It taps to do 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you untap Thermo Alchemist. Love Thermo Alchemist. Is a key part in my very janky red defender deck that I built a while ago. And yeah, it really does. Yeah, it looks very excuse me. It looks very unthreatening, right? Because it's just a 0/3 defender. But it's just going to sit there and it's going to just keep pinging away at people. It gets an untap every time an instant sorcery comes out, so it's going to just keep pinging away. So it can actually contribute quite a lot. The Thermo Alchemist. If you were going to modify this deck, I would definitely add more of these in here as well, because obviously it can serve as a pretty good defender as well. So yeah, really nice to have these in here. And then we've got 2 Weaver of Lightning, 2 and a red for a 1/4 with reach. Always nice to see a red creature get reach. It is kind of secondary in red these days, I think, which is nice. Gives it something a bit more variety in creature design. But yeah, whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, it does 1 damage to target creature and opponent control. So again, just attacking on this extra 1 point of damage onto every instant or sorcery spell you cast, just to so if you've got burn spells, you can aim them at something else and also kill off an X1, which I think is pretty good, or just finish off a creature that's already got damage on it. So yeah, like really solid effect, and that's just what the deck is actually full of. Just these really solid, instant sorcery, synergy effects, which I think is just really great. Then we just got a bunch of prowess creatures. So yeah, we Fate Reforged again. So a Niblis of Dusk, 2 and a blue for a 2/1 flying and prowess. 2 Ingenious Scab, which is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 with prowess, and you can spend blue to give it +1/-1 to 10, and a single Sanguinary Mage, 1 and a red for a 1/3 with prowess. So yeah, these are all perfectly fine. They're smallish creatures. They've all increased their power and toughness. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, yeah, they're all great. Niblis of Dusk, I think, is probably the best because it has evasion. But Ingenious Scab has got the extra, does have that nice ability where if needed, it can just change its, pump itself up a little bit if it needs to punch up. So it's not as reliant on the prowess triggers, I think, as the other 2 are. But yeah, these are all perfect, I think. And then the last creature of the deck is a bit of a duff card, I think. Sibylind Snapper, sure. 5 and a blue for a 6/6, so just big chunky creature. It can't attack unless you've cast a non-creature spell this turn. So, that it's just unfortunate that text box is all downside, which we're sort of getting to the era now where we don't really see that now. Like creatures are just generally just kind of good. So this one does stand out as being like having a drawback. I mean, it's a big beefy creature, and ideally, obviously, you're going to be casting non-creature spells, hopefully every turn, right? But I think really most of the time this is not a win condition. Yeah, I think the Mercurial Geists, the creature with prowess and evasion, they're more what you should be attacking with. I think this is really just going to sit back and just be a big defender most of the time, which is it's an easy cut to make, I think, if you are modifying the deck. Right, let's move on to the many non-creature spells in the deck. So we've got a single Pieces of the Puzzle, so 2 and a blue. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put up to 2 instant and/or sorcery cards from amongst them into your hand, rest into your graveyard. This is super good. Dig for 5 and then pick out 2 instant sorceries, which the deck is full of. Get the ones you need, and then getting the rest into the graveyard is not super ideal, but like you do have some things that synergize with stuff being in your graveyard. Like you got the Bedlam Reveler, and the next card we're going to look at. So yeah, this is a pretty solid card. It's actually, I think it's pretty crazy. It's a common actually. Could have done maybe with 1 more of these in the deck. That would have been pretty nice, I think. We've got a single Rise from the Tides, 5 and a blue. Put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield that's tapped for every instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. So I think this has got a potentially massively high ceiling, considering how many instant sorceries you've got in the deck. I would say at minimum you want to kind of get like 3 out of this to make it feel like costed okay. But if you get more than 3, then like you're laughing, honestly. And this is like, I think this could be a legitimate way of winning, just making a bunch of zombie tokens and then just swinging with those, right? Or just you've got a bunch of chump blockers while you do, your like prowess creatures or like your flying creatures. So yeah, really solid, I think. And again, it would have been nice to have more than 1 here. It is quite expensive though, I suppose. So it's probably best to only have the 1. We've got 3 Take Inventory, so 1 in the blue. You draw a card, then you draw cards equal to the number of cards named to take inventory in your graveyard. So the first time you cast it, it's 1, and then it's 2, and then it's you get three cards out of it. So but the first time you cast it, it's sorcery speed as well. So the first time you cast this, it's obviously a bit overcosted, but then the second and third time you're getting like a pretty good deal out of it by drawing sort of like more cards than you should for that mana cost. Really would have liked there to be a full playset of 4 of them in here, but it's fine. But yeah, I think it's just a pretty solid. Just it just replaces itself, doesn't it? So it's okay. A single Pore over the pages, 3 in double blue. Draw 3 cards and tap up to 2 lands and then discard a card. So this is quite nice. The fact you can get a bit of an untap out of it, so you could potentially cast something you've just drawn, is pretty solid. Yeah, I think this is good. Just another good draw spell to have in here. Right, 2 Shreds of Sanity. I think this is really good actually. So 2 in a red. Return up to 1 target instant card and up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Then discard a card and then exile Shreds of Sanity. So yeah, this is nice. Potentially getting 2 things back for the cost of. Well, it's not exactly card advantage, isn't it? You're essentially trading Shreds of Sanity and the card in your hand for 2 of these. But you always discard the land to it, can't you, as well? Does exile itself, so you can't continuously loop it. But yeah, if this helps you get back some of your card draw spells, or get another casting of Rise from the Tides, or like one of your burn spells. Yeah, I think this is like really solid inclusion here. We've got a single Incendiary Flow, 1 in a red. Does 3 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, it gets exiled instead. We sort of see this effect a lot in red, where it just disintegrates something. Yeah, I think it's solid, like 2 mana for 3 damage. Sorcery speed is kind of like, yeah, but like it's cheap and it has this nice, extra ability. So yeah, that's fine. Again, would have liked to have more than 1 in here, but it's uncommon. That's usually kind of cramped for space in these kind of decks and to what can fit into the uncommon. But yeah, this is really nice, and yeah, this is again a card you want more of in the deck. We've got 3 Galvanic Bombardment, so 1 mana for an instant. Does X damage to target creature where X is 2, plus the number of cards named Galvanic Bombardment in your graveyard. So, like the Take Inventory, it's one of these ones that gets better the more you've cast it. So the first time it's 2, and then 3, and then 4. So by the point you're doing like 4 damage, like 1 red mana at instant speed, that's obviously really, really strong. Again, would have been nice to have a full playset of 4 of them. But this is nice. It's just a nice little creature burn. It's I mean, the first time you cast it, it's technically worse than Shock because it can't hit players. But it's really nice and cheap, which is what the deck wants to get, like all those, because you want to be casting, I think, multiple instants and sorceries in turn to get all those like prowess triggers and get like all the other synergy effects you've got on your creatures. So yeah, this is really good. I like this. A single reduced to ashes, 4 in a red, does 5 damage to target creature. If it would die this turn, gets exiled instead. So like 5 mana and sorcery is obviously kind of expensive and slow, but again, 5 damage is nothing to be. 5 damage is not nothing, and exiling stuff as well. Especially in an Innistrad block where there's usually so many things that care about stuff being in graveyards. Yep, that's always good. So yeah, that's okay. So we've got a single Dance with Devils, 3 in a red. You make 2 devil tokens, and they each have, when they die, they do 1 damage to target creature or player. So there's actually a nice way of you do have ways of making more creatures beyond like the 14 you've got. So this is really nice, and like it's nice as well that they've got an inbuilt burn effect when they die. So yeah, really, and the fact this comes out instant speed is actually really nice as well, making two devil tokens, so you can get some chump blockers in and then a bit of burn damage as well. So potentially like 4 for 1 on this card, right? It's a really high ceiling because you could cast this, get your 2 devils out. They they block some X1s. This is like the actual Magical Christmas Land scenario. They block the X1s, they die, and then they kill off 2 more X1s. So potentially like a lot of value out of this one card. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. And then 2, Make Mischief, 2 in a red for a sorcery, does 1 damage to target creature or player, and then you make a devil token, has the same when it dies, does 1 damage. So again, this is, I think, pretty good. And then we've got 2 Geist Blast. This is really interesting, actually. So 2 in a red, does 2 damage to target creature or player, absolutely fine. But then it has 2 in a blue, exile it from your graveyard, you copy an instant or sorcery spell you control, you can choose new targets for the copy. This is really, really interesting to have in here. Like, like just being able to copy like your best thing. Oh, if you can copy like Rise from the Tides from this, or like one of your big card draw spells, or like a good burn spell, like really, really good. It's really nice there's 2 of them in as well, actually. Or copy like Shreds of Sanity, that would be pretty good. Yeah, like this can do a lot in here. There's like a lot of really good targets for this for the second ability in the deck. Then a bunch of kind of standard like blue sort of counter and bounce. So single Convolute, 2 in a blue to counter target spell unless it's control base 4. Yep, it's fine. Just a straight up counter, isn't it? Well, a soft counter, but you know what I mean. It's fine. A single Drag Under, 2 in a blue. Return target creature to owner's hand and you draw a card. It's sorcery speed bounce, which I'm not a huge fan of, but at least you get a card draw out of it, okay, which is fine. And a single turn aside, 1 blue, counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. Good to keep like maybe like your buffed up Mercurial Geists or your other kind of prowess creatures safe once they've reached a high height. And also, then you can cast this, and then they to protect them, and then they also get the prowess boost, don't they? So that's always good. And then 39 and 12 mountains. So overall, I like this one a lot. It's another really solid like blue-red spells matters deck, which is it's a shame we're coming to the end of kind of like the intro deck, because I feel like they've actually now they really nailed blue-red spells matters decks like absolutely just right, and it's a shame we're going to see the end of them soon. But let's talk about what could have been. Let's think about alternate rares first. So I do think the 2 rares in here are really good anyway, but it's like alternate timeline. What could have been? So Collective Defiance is an option here. So it's 1 and double red. Has Escalate 1, which means so it's got 3 options, and you can choose more than one option, but you have to pay extra mana every time you choose a different option. So it's a bit like Kicker, honestly. So it can either make a player discard all the cards in their hand and then draw that many cards. So it's like a wheel effect. It's not a wheel effect, no. I can't think what the equivalent is, because a wheel effect is like you refresh your hand completely. Like Bedlam Reveler is like a wheel effect. This is something else, but it's an effect red usually gets. Or it does 4 damage to target creature, or it does 3 damage to an opponent. So I think casting this for 5 and doing all 3 of those things is pretty good. That could have been okay. It's kind of a big splashy spell. Fevered Visions, I think, would have been pretty interesting here as well. So 1 a blue and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's end step, draw a card, so that is everyone, but it's an extra card draw every turn. But if the player is your opponent and they have 4 or more cards in hand, they take 2 damage from Fevered Vision. So they're going to draw extra cards, but they've got to use those cards, otherwise they're going to take damage from it. So yeah, pretty solid. I think that could have been here as well. And then just an extra spell that could have been here as well, Savage Alliance. So 2 and a red. With Escalate as well, and you choose 1 or more creatures a player controls get trampled into turn. That would have worked out here, because you got like the Mercurial Geist, they would have loved to have trample, or your prowess creatures would have loved having trample, so that would have pretty good inclusion there. Or it does 2 damage to target creature, or it does 1 damage to each creature target opponent controls. So again, like that's either giving all your stuff trample, and then doing 3 damage to one creature and 1 damage to everything else. So that's pretty solid as well. That's I think a nice flexible card that could have been here. But what I was saying, I think what's here is actually really, really solid. I really like it. And this really well put together blue-red kind of spells matter deck. So really, really liked looking at this one. What are your thoughts on this one after seeing it? If you got any thoughts or comments or stories, opinions about the deck or any of the cards in it, stick a comment downstairs. I'll give that a read. But I'll be back next time. We're going to look at another intro pack for Eldritch Moon. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.